Welcome to the Inspiring Women of Iowa podcast, a special series amplifying the stories of the Inspiring Women of Iowa finalists. Inspiring Women of Iowa is an annual event hosted by Girl Scouts of Greater Iowa with the goal of celebrating women of courage, confidence, and character who are making the world a better place. And why does that sound familiar? Well, because it also happens to be the mission of the Girl Scouts, where they believe society is better because strong women show girls that anything is possible. This event was created by Girl Scouts of Greater Iowa in 2017 to celebrate women in our community and share their stories, while raising support for the Girl Scout programs that build the next generation of inspiring women. 16 individuals are celebrated annually with the Courage, Confidence, Character, and Inspiring Advocate for Women awards. I'm your host, Teresa Peterson, Caramel Delight enthusiast, and I'm honored to have the chance to speak with these amazing, inspiring women and to share their stories with you. Joining me today is Rachel Fife. Rachel is the Oncology Program Coordinator at Unity Point Health, where she supports adolescents and young adults navigating cancer. She has been nominated for the Confidence Award. Welcome, Rachel.
Hello, thank you for having me.
What should we know about you and your work?
Well, I come from a social work background. So in my adult career, I've done everything about other people, helping other people. And I started at Unity Point in 2013, never having worked in a hospital. And I felt like, oh my gosh, I have such a huge learning curve. And was so lucky to have the people that I get to work with that taught me all I needed to do. And all I had to do was what I do well, and that's program building, helping people, and figuring out what people need and how we can get it. So it's been a really long time. I don't want to add up those years. And since then, we've started so many programs and been able to help so many people. So I'm very excited that we get to celebrate that.
Am too. And you said something I want to just pull a thread on a little bit, because I think this will relate to a lot of people who are listening and enjoying the podcast series. Is you went into this job that kind of felt unfamiliar and maybe oh boy, what did I get myself into? You didn't quite say that, but I could sure feel myself maybe feeling that. And I'm like, this is different. And you beautifully were like, you know what? This is what the core of this job is, and I know how to do this well. And the rest of it, I'll kind of figure out as I plug into what I know how to do well. And how did you land there? Because I think there are lots of folks, and I know we have a lot of women who will be listening, and we think we have to know all of the pieces before we go for a different position or try something new. You just kind of nailed it. How did you settle into that mindset?
Well, I think it helps that ever since I was a teenager, I've kind of landed in these roles where I don't know what I'm doing and figuring it out. And it's why I was such drawn to social work, because I think it's such a role where that is your entire job, is helping people figure things out. And it helps to have a good team behind you who know what they're doing. And so the areas that I needed to learn, I was able to learn really fast. This was before AI, where you could type it in and really fast, get a general idea. So it was go in, figure it out. And we did it. Again, I was well supported. I think it's very important to be well supported and find your people when you're trying something new, and then asking questions and not being afraid to ask those questions. It's not being afraid to be wrong, because that's okay. And you learn from that. Everything is a learning experience. And then also just having the confidence to just figure it out and make something new. They haven't done this either, these new programs. So you're starting fresh, so you get to make it what you want. So that makes it easier when you get to decide what the rules are.
Yeah. I love that. Ooh, that lights me up. I love a good what are the rules? Let's make them up. And then we'll change them if we don't like them, right? That's fabulous.
Exactly.
Tell us about, as I was getting ready for today, I told Nick, our producer behind the scenes, I said, if meeting any one of these women and talking about what they're here for is gonna move me, it's gonna be today. Because my dad had a very long battle with cancer, right? And that changes you. Tell me what that looks like when we're thinking about supporting adolescents, young adults, their families. Like, what's important for people to understand about that journey? I guess I'll just call it a journey.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The reason why this program exists is because people don't think that young adults get cancer. They think
Yeah.
you see the commercials with kids, and you see the commercials with older people without hair. And
Yes.
Right? And so I think it's important to realize that at any age, people can get cancer. Part of this job is educating about that, and that you have to be aware of your own body and be aware of your own risks and go to the doctor. So many young people don't. So I think it's important to just acknowledge that cancer happens. Cancer's very prevalent in Iowa right now. It
Mhm.
always actually has been, and it can happen at any age. This age experiences different things. So I do things from like talk about fertility, and I talk about those taboo things that nobody wants to talk about, nobody has the answers for. Talk about dating and insurance. People don't understand their insurance. And this is an age bracket that at any day we could be talking about anything, because when you're young and going through this, it's sometimes cancer's the least of your problems. It's like getting to work and understanding that, and or paying off your bills, or again, dating or fertility or family. Those are the
Mhm.
priorities. So it's every day's a little bit different. And sometimes it's about body image, because I started the Empower program to work with any age, but primarily because I saw um, so much turmoil about body image, and what can we do to feel like ourselves. So everybody's different, every age is different, but just meeting people where they're at.
Paint a picture for us of how that's changed, or like that thinking or that approach in your time in this role at Unity Point, because I can imagine, although I'm not sure, so like you share with us that maybe in 2013 people weren't talking about fertility, right? At long term with a younger adult, or maybe weren't thinking as much about dating. Like I can think about a time with my dad, and it's not the same, right? But where it was just like, well, you're gonna survive, and so there you go. And that was kind of like the handoff. Like there, like the sense of quality of life throughout this process was pretty neglected. So how does that look and feel? Like how has that evolved in your time?
Well, again, I just do what I do well, and we have nurses, we have doctors who can talk about cancer, can talk about those kinds of things. Um, what isn't talked about is that, again, nobody knows how to approach things like fertility, or relationships, intimacy, those kinds of things. So those are things we can talk about, and as long as you practice your face, you can do this. You can just be human to another person.
Yeah.
So I feel like since 2013, you'd be surprised how little it's still not talked about unless they have a person like me. And
Mm.
more organizations are finding people like me who do it, but they want somebody else to be kind of the expert. So what surprises me, I think my very first day, I went and had a fertility talk. And boy, at the time, I knew my stats, I knew this, but had never done it before. And now I can't tell you how many times I have had this conversation. But
Yeah.
it wasn't intimidating to me because it's just a conversation. It's telling them what their
Yeah.
options are. Th
Yeah.
they have the hard job of deciding what to do. Um,
Mhm.
so what I think has evolved is some of the things, like, it was very expensive, and it still is, um,
Mhm.
but we've been able to form relationships that have made that more affordable for people, so I'm very proud that we're able to, you know, help people make that a little bit more affordable. And it's not just fertility we do, but that's just a great example of something that
Yeah.
is very prevalent in that age. So I think that we tackle everything individually, because things have changed so much since 2013.
Yeah.
Technology's different, worries are different. Like, again, I don't even know technology these days and what social media is, so I have to keep up on that. But just adapting every day to what's new, and being open to it, and remembering that, this is new for them, so do what you do best and help people along the way.
Yeah. You just said so simply and beautifully a minute ago about, like, just be a human with them. right? Like that was so you mentioned some programs by name, and I know there are many others, but share with us some of the things you're most proud of in this work.
Yeah. So when we first started, it was just connecting the pediatric and the adult oncology so they could communicate. And since that started, like, that communication has very much changed. Oncologists have changed, but it's almost a no-brainer now. Like, before, they didn't know who each other were if they were passing each other in the hallways, but just being able to, and that wasn't me, that was just the AOI program. That was just having that there and having that accessible and communicating is something we're really proud of. Being able to offer fertility same day, being able to educate and let people know what their choices are is something I'm very proud of. And then empower and building a boutique and salon for all ages is something I'm very proud
Mm,
of as well. And that's forever changing. So we're even today doing new things with that. So just I'm proud that we're an organization that if you have an idea, and particularly if I have an idea, they say, "Yeah, tell me how much that'll cost and what you're thinking and like what the parameters are. And if you're willing to do the work, then we're willing to support it and put it out there." So I've been
mm.
very, very lucky to have an organization that if you have an idea, we're going to make it happen.
Yeah, your energy is, like, fabulous. Like, your energy is fabulous, your passion is so clear. Like, how do you stay inspired? Because I can tell you have no shortage of ideas percolating, like,
Yeah.
all the time, right? Like, how do you stay inspired?
Yeah, I think again, always generating those ideas keeps me inspired. And knowing that, just the other day I had a very hard day. It was a very sad day, and that happens with cancer. And um, you have to understand that that will always happen. But at the end of it, too, I had a really happy moment where I saw a survivor and they were doing well and they were, you know, moving their career into a different genre, which happens a lot with young adults after cancer, and I got to see them, and it was 5 years later, and see the pictures of their kids and see, like, they were teeny and now they're huge, and they like, that is what inspires me is that there's with every loss, with every sadness, there's a joy that
Mm,
you get to help bring to it, and I see that every single day. I see the lows and the highs every single day,
yeah,
and remembering that it's important to be with people at both those moments,
mm,
keeps me going. Like, it's just as important to be with somebody in the hard times as it is to be in the happy ones.
yeah. How do you how do you take care of yourself and kinda managing those highs and lows? And, like, how has that looked for you over time or what's working well now? I think it's so important to talk about how we take care of ourselves when we're doing this beautiful service work.
Absolutely. If we're being completely honest, which number 1, that's my first thing is be completely honest with how you're doing
Yeah.
and you're at. Because there are times
Love.
there are times since 2013 that there have been rougher times and there have been, better times. And so just number 1, knowing that and recognizing where you are, and knowing the support that you have is absolutely essential. Because there's gonna be times that you're more down,
Yeah.
that are harder. And so always know your coping skills, of course, but also just recognize that there's gonna be harder times and there's gonna be less hard times. But I find value in knowing that I've gone and done my best every day, and then I go home to my daughter, to my husband, I live on a lake and I get to see water, sometimes cold,
Mm.
not, and right. And being able to do that and reset and come back with, okay, what can we do today? And knowing that some of those days it's going to be today, it's just getting through it and doing what you need to do. And the next day will be the day that you can push through and do, and inspire and do all these things. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I love that point about just being honest with yourself about where you are, right? Because uh, something I feel like I see a lot and have probably done myself, probably more than I'd like to say, is just smiling and pretending, right? And not truly like I'm just going to embrace this attitude, but just like fully faking. And the drain on your spirit, on your
mhm,
productivity when you're faking is really hard. And I love that, like, I can be honest about where I am and still go do a good job, right? And still treat others well and show up without pretending to myself even, right? That like it's okay right now. I just really appreciate like naming it and knowing who's in your corner. That
Mhm.
feels so good.
Absolutely. I really am
Mm,
blessed with a wonderful team. So if I'm having a harder day, I can say, "Hey, could you do this for me?" And I'm going to do that.
yeah.
Or I just got back from vacation, which I'm very blessed to have gone to, and I was a little titch jet lagged, and so I had to see a patient like right away, and not that they need to know what's going on in my life, but I said, "Hey, just so you know, I'm a little jet lagged. If you notice something, I just want you to know I'm doing this, and I'm still here for you, and I know this stuff. But if it takes me a
Yeah.
minute to remember a phone number, it's just because I was in a plane for like 14 hours."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they don't need to know everything that's going on in your life, but if you can
Yeah.
share a little bit, then you're also a more believable person when I'm talking about very
Yes.
personal things. So,
Yes.
bringing a little bit of that into real life, I think, it's not for everybody, but it's how I do it.
Yeah. But I think you nailed it with like sharing little glimpses of our own humanity is what makes us a believable person, right? Like, is what makes us feel like this is a real person I can connect with, right? Like that. Mm, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm. Cheers to all the like believable people out there today. Just doing it. Yeah. Oh, Rachel, it's been a pleasure like meeting you, hearing about your work. Um, if people want to be involved or supportive, how could they do that?
Yeah, well, number 1, we're always looking for volunteers at the hospital, and so they can always that is one way to do our programs are built on, foundation funds, so if you want to give, you always can, and that can be in monetary or in stories or in time, that's always appreciated, and also, I would just say if you know somebody everybody knows somebody who has cancer, and so,
Yes.
and be aware of how be aware of that because so many of our patients that we see will say, well, people just don't get it, or they say you're inspiring, or you say this. And so just,
Ugh.
I think if people are aware that ask how they're doing, be real with them. That helps. That helps everything that I'm doing.
Yeah.
It helps everything that everybody else is doing is just be there for your people who are going through this and everything in a real way.
Yeah. That's what I want to tease out for just a moment because like I love that idea of asking how they're doing. And then, what would you add to that? Because as someone who loved someone who went through quite a battle, right? Like, and don't say, well, at least, and don't say,
Mhm.
well, yeah, but just be with it.
Exactly.
Just acknowledge, like, sounds like it's tough right now, right? Like, just
Yeah.
an acknowledgement, like, the I think people often think they're helping with a, "Well, at least it's not," and you're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
please don't." Like,
Yeah,
I
or
don't
my
know that that
second
is
cousin
helpful.
had that kind
Yeah,
of cancer,
oh,
or
yeah,
have you read about
yes.
vitamin C? Um,
Yes, right,
I think
right.
it's important to just be there for people,
Yeah,
just say, "How are you doing?" Or to not talk about cancer, to say
yeah,
and people often also think that they can't talk about, like, their rough day at work or whatever, and I would tell
mm,
you, people who are going through a rough time wanna talk about anything else besides
yes,
cancer, so just be real with a person, I think we can do a lot of good with that.
yeah, mm. It was a pleasure. I look forward to meeting you at the luncheon in May. I'll be thinking about this conversation. Rachel,
Me
thank you.
too. Thank you.
The 2026 Inspiring Women of Iowa event will be held on May 8th at the Meadows Events and Conference Center. To purchase tickets and get more information about supporting this event, please visit inspiringwomenofiowa.com. All proceeds from this fundraising event stay 100% local to benefit Girl Scouts of Greater Iowa and their mission to build up girls of courage, confidence, and character who will make this world a better place. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your support.